The Catcher in the Rye by Ethan Fleming, David Pratt, and Thomas Shea, and Pat Roddy. Holden Caulfield was a 17-year-old boy who had recently flunked out of his third school. He was sitting on the hill watching his school's football game, and he was just thinking to himself,
what I was really looking for was some sort of goodbye.
After leaving the football game, Holden goes to say goodbye to his favorite teacher, Old Spencer.
I finally got to meet your parents, the grand people.
This is the first time we hear Holden say phony in the book, when he's thinking in his head and says,
Grand, that's a word I really hate. It's a phony. I could puke every time I hear it.
When Holden's done talking to Old Spencer, he goes back to his room and he starts talking to his roommate, Stradlater.
Oh, hey man, can I ask you a favor?
What's up?
Well, I'm going out with a girl tonight and I was wondering if you could write me a creative paper.
Who's the girl?
Jane, she says what's up.
Holden has distinct memories about Jane, as he used to be her next door neighbor. He distinctly remembers what she did with her kings when they used to play checkers.
She just leave them all in the back row. They just sit in the back row the whole game. Oh?
Holden replies to Stradlater's request with,
I'll think about it.
Thanks.
Stradlater leaves, and Holden decides he's going to write his paper. He puts on his red hunting hat to write the paper, and he sits down at his desk. Holden decides to write the paper about his brother Ali's baseball mitt that has a bunch of poems on it. He starts talking about how his brother died from leukemia, and he says,
I broke all the goddamn windows with my fist, just for the hell of it.
Holden wasn't supposed to leave for another 3 days, but he decides to leave early and go to the city. He packs up all his stuff, and as he's leaving the dorm,
Sleep tight, you morons!
What? Go back to bed, hon. Go back to bed. Okay.
Holden's on the train to the city, and someone boards and decides to sit right next to him. It's the mother of one of his classmates, and he starts lining up a storm tour and being a big phony. When he's talking, he gets a thought in his head.
I gave her a good look. She didn't look like any dope to me. She looked like she might have a pretty damn good idea of how much a jerk her son was.
But he kept talking to her anyway until the end of until he had to get off. When Holden arrives at his destination, he goes to a hotel and he calls up a prostitute. He's feeling somewhat depressed and lonely, and he thinks he might get some action. Things don't really work out too hot, and he's thinking,
sex is something I don't really understand too hot. You never really know where the hell you are.
Holden worries about his friend Jane and Stradlater. He knows that Stradlater gives a lot of girls the time, and he's worried that Jane will do this, or that Stradlater will do this to Jane. He starts thinking,
I mean, most girls are so dumb. You neck with them for a while and they just lose their brains. You get them when they're most passionate and they just hasn't any brains.
Holden worries that Stradlater did this to Jane, which is bad for him because he likes her a lot, mainly because she's always been so innocent and pure. Holden is walking in the road and he sees a boy skipping along the curb. He's worried about the boy because his parents aren't really paying attention to him, and he's worried about him falling into the traffic. The boy is singing, If I want to catch a fire down through the rye. This makes Holden think,
Singing Catcher in the Rye really makes me happy. It really makes me a little less depressed.
Holden had called a prostitute, but he didn't end up doing anything with her except talk. When she was leaving, they had a disagreement about the price, and so she got her personal bodyguard. The bodyguard beat up Holden to get him the extra $5.
Give me the money.
They got the money and then left.
Let's go.
Holden's really feeling down on himself, so he decides to take a bath. When he's in there, he thinks,
what I really felt like, though, was killing myself. I wanted to jump up the window. I probably would have if I had been covered by someone right as I landed.
Holden goes home the next night when his parents aren't home and talks to his little sister Phoebe. He tells her about his new dream about him being the catcher in the rye.
There's thousands of little kids. There's no one big there except me. I'm standing on this crazy cliff, and all I have to do is catch the kids when they're falling off.
After the prostitute left, Holden felt like praying, but he couldn't pray because he was thinking.
I bet Jesus didn't send old Judas to hell. I bet any one of the disciples would have, but not Jesus. Jesus didn't do it.
Holden decides to go to the museum. He's having a good time, but then he thinks,
It was so nice and peaceful, but then you'll never guess what I saw on the wall. A big ol'
"Fuck you!"
Holden's at the carousel when he sees his sister Phoebe reaching for a gold ring. He sees her and thinks,
The thing with kids is, they always want to reach for the gold ring. If they fall off, they fall off. You just can't say anything about it to them. Oh, you kids.
while Holden's reminiscing on the past few days, he tells his audience,
Don't tell anybody anything. If you do, you'll start to miss everybody.
Ethan Fleming is Holden Caulfield.
My mind's telling me no. But my body's telling me yeah.
David Pratt as an extra.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning.
Patrick Crotty as an extra. Tom Shea as cameraman and narrator.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
And special guest appearance from Willow.